Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This pile is very heavy and it's not even all my palettes. I'm a little winded. Okay, today I am going to be ranking all of my ABH palettes, and there's junk here. There are 3 more than what I can hold up. I have way more ABH palettes than I realized, so I'm going to put them in order from my least favorite to my most favorite. So if you are curious what that list looks like, then stick around. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notification bell is turned on. Give these videos a thumbs up if you like them. I am planning on doing ColourPop and Too Faced. I have all of those palettes sitting out over here, so that will be coming. And yeah, if you want to see my ranking of my ABH palettes, then just keep on watching. So I have the pile. And I have my Norvina volume palettes in here also, along with my normal ABH palettes. And there is one dupe. I have the Alter Ego dupe for the Sultry palette, so I have included it. It's a pretty comparable dupe as far as formula, like the shimmer formula is good. So I included it, even though it's technically not an ABH palette, but it's in here. So we're just going to get into it. So what did I say? There's 12. Okay, so at number 12 is my first ABH palette. This is Modern Renaissance, and I should put the disclaimer, I don't dislike any of these. If I did, they wouldn't be in my collection. I have almost decluttered this, and I did decide to keep it. It's a classic. I do use it occasionally. I use it more in the fall than anything else, and I do still reach for kind of this quadrant in here. I like pinks and purples, mauves. So that tends to be what I do with it more, or I'll do like an orangey look. I don't think I've ever used gold and ochre, but I think that's it. Yeah, everything else I've used. And I mean, it has gotten some use. You can see I've used the pinks and purples and berries more than anything else, but it's not one that I reach for a lot. Like, this was a cult favorite. I bought it because everybody was talking about it. Like I said, this was my first ABH palette ever. I do still like it. It's just not one that I use very often anymore. So that's why it's ranked so low. Like I said, I don't dislike any of these. If I disliked them, I wouldn't have them, but I did have to rank them. So please don't come for me. Next, we have the Prism palette. I got this on Poshmark. There are some temperamental shimmers in here. I call them lower lash shimmers just because they're very wet feeling almost, and they don't blend well. Like, you can use them all over the lid, but I'll sometimes do 2 different shimmers. I'll do a main shimmer and then a shimmer that I'll use to blend into the matte. They don't work well for that because of the wetness. Throne and Osiris are definitely those like lower lash shimmers where they're or like all over the lid. They're not a good blending shimmer, if that makes sense. And so for that reason, there are some temperamental formulas in here a little bit, but there are some fun colors like Sphere. Obsidian is a really good black. Lure is very pretty. There's some really nice shades, and you can do a lot with this. There was just a little bit of a learning curve for me with some of the formulas, because there are some, I feel like, some different shimmer formulas in this than some of the other palettes. Next would be Subculture, and again, I got this used on Poshmark. I did have to repress Fudge. Fudge came completely broken, but I managed to be able to salvage it and repress that in. So I try to be careful, and there's more shadow on this edge than that side. So I try to stay down towards the bottom, but you can see whoever had it like barely used it. Like, they mainly used electric, which is a very, very pretty, like, it's very sheer. Okay. But yeah, the most used shade that whoever owned it was electric, which is, it's a pretty shade. It's very sheer, but it's got a nice like shift to it. But I like grungy looks, so I do like this palette. You just have to be careful on the colors that you blend together. You have to keep color theory in mind because they are so grungy and they are pressed pigments that they will muddy. So, I mean, I keep the blues together, obviously the purples. So yeah, you just have to be mindful about what colors you're mixing. And I haven't had any issues with it. Cube is another like pretty like shifty shade out of the palette. So there are some pretty shimmers. I just realized there's only 3, so it's a primarily matte palette, but yeah, you just have to be careful about what shades you're blending. Mine's a little bit messy because that brown, it's always the dark colors that come broken whenever that happens to me, but I do like it. Next is the Sultry palette. This is Alter Ego's. This is the Temptress, but it's a dupe for ABH's Sultry. It was one of those palettes where I didn't think I wanted it, and then I decided, you know, Sultry wasn't really available, so I bought the dupe. I like it. It's pretty. I haven't used it yet. I do like Alter Ego's formula. It's very cool toned, so I just haven't used it yet. I kind of forgot about it, so I put it in with my other ABH palettes since it is an ABH dupe. So hopefully I will remember that I own it now that it's with those palettes. So what is that? 12, 11, 10, 9. Number 8 is Volume 1. I haven't used this one yet either. It's mainly based on color story at this point. Very bright, lots of fun colors. My mother-in-law gave me a gift card for Mother's Day. This is the palette that I bought. Mustard tones in here, they're pretty. I just haven't gotten around to using it. But I do like the color story in this. Just haven't. I have too many palettes. It's just... number 7 is one that I like. When I saw, this was right before ABH kind of lost their mind and went on their massive release spree. This is the Riviera palette. This was like when they first started coming out with bright palettes. This was before Jackie Aina, before that hot pink one. I forget who that collab was with, but I like this palette. It's got some really pretty shimmers. You basically have a row of shimmers other than the matte white, and then this bottom row. The only gripe, I wouldn't have minded, like, I feel like Coastline or Estate could go, one of these shades could go away, and they could have given us like a matte blue. I think would have been better, but that's just me. But I do like the shimmers in here, and I've done some pretty looks with this palette. So I still have Riviera. I still like it. At number 6, so we're right in the middle, is my Jackie Aina palette. I did finally bite the bullet and buy this after a while. I do like this. This is more of a fall color story for me. It doesn't have to be. These are just more of the colors that I gravitate towards in the fall and winter time than I do like in the springtime. I like more like bright colors like this out of the Riviera in the spring. But Trust Issue, I've only used this a few times. I feel like it's kind of a cross between the two out of Subculture. Like, it's really, really pretty and kind of ethereal looking almost, but I've only used this palette a couple of times, but I do like it, and the packaging's really pretty. Number 5, and the only reason this is above the Jackie Aina is just because I've used this more. This is one of those palettes that if I'm not really sure what I want to do for work, but I want to have some sort of makeup on, I'll grab this palette. Ooh, throwing brushes. It's just it doesn't look like I've used it a lot, but I have used this more than the Jackie Aina palette, so that's the only reason it's ranked higher, because I've just gotten some really nice, easy, pretty looks. Like, you're not going to be able to do anything super revolutionary. There's not a ton of depth in here, but the shadows that are in here I think are pretty, and they blend well, and the shimmers are really pretty. I don't know. Not everybody liked the Carly Bible palette. My mother-in-law bought this for me for Christmas last year, so I also like it for that reason. Then we have number 4, Norvina. I like pinks. This is more of a pinky palette to me than a purple palette. But the shimmers, again, are really, really stunning. You've got a row of all shimmer on top. The matte row you can do completely neutral. You don't have to do pinks or purpley colors with it, but it's very romantic color story, I guess, would be the word I would use. And then I did get Soft Glam recently, and I haven't actually used this palette, but I ranked it higher than those just because I know I will. I'm throwing brushes again. Look at this color story. There's no way I'm not going to not use that. I say that and it'll probably be forever before I touch it, but there is a black. Mulberry is really pretty. I feel like this could be a spring or fall palette because you've got some depth, some light. I don't know why it took me so long to buy this. When I went to Montana for Thanksgiving, I still had a gift card at Ulta. So this was one of my purchases. So I did get that. Okay, at number 2, this was a palette that my husband bought for me last year for my birthday. This is the Volume 3. It's very neon, very bright, very fun. It is kind of a split neutral palette because if you count the brown shades and you count the hot neon shades, it's pretty split, but it's just a fun color story, and I appreciate that my husband bought that for me. The only one I don't own is the blue one. I did try to get it when they had it on sale. They were doing a sale several months ago where it was like 50% off and it was all sold out at Sephora. Because Sephora had it marked down. I was going to pick it up just because it was on sale, but it was all sold out. So at number 1, we have my Volume 4 just because it's a pink palette. She's pretty. She's neutral. There are some hot pink shades in here that are gorgeous. Excuse me. You have 2 pressed glitters on the bottom, but they're very pretty pressed glitters. I don't mind them. I did have the first palette I got broke. I was able to repress it and I gave it away to one of you guys. So somebody was able to get some use out of it, and she told me that the palette came completely intact. She didn't have any issues. So thankfully it came, because it was like 4 of the shimmers that fell out. They were kind enough to replace it. That was Sephora. So I got a brand new one and I was able to gift my original one to one of you. So that is my ranking. Let me know what you guys thought of my list. I feel like it's a little bit controversial probably because Modern Renaissance was ranked so low and then Subculture was a little bit higher up, but makeup is all personal preference, so not everybody is going to have the same preferences or tastes. So let me know what you thought. I'm going to try and do my ColourPop one and possibly my Too Faced one next. So stay tuned for those. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. Again, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. And yeah, that's all I have. So hopefully you guys will have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in another video very, very soon. Bye, everybody.